Hello and welcome to the second to last upload of 2025 for the Stack Exchange. Hope you all are getting ready for the holidays and are excited for this video. As a quick side note, it is very early in the morning when I'm recording this, so sorry if my voice sounds weird or quiet. Recently, I uploaded a video highlighting one of my most unique decks of all time, and you guys absolutely loved it. And upon getting many requests to do a more in-depth dive on how the deck works, I've made this video, which will outline each intricacy that I established in the deck. But first, I want to take a moment and say thank you guys for all of your support. The amount of kind words and interaction on the previous Grandeur video was absolutely amazing, and we couldn't do any of this without you guys. I also want to take a moment to plug something new, which is our channel membership. Because of all of your support on the last video, we were able to get these set up, and while they are still under review with YouTube right now, we will have them up very shortly, so be on the lookout for those. If you happen to stumble upon this video and have no idea what I'm talking about, go watch my previous video, which is linked below, and you can also find it on our channel titled My Most Unique Deck. To go more in depth on this deck, I'll start with the basics and slowly work my way into the more niche synergies as the video goes on. Covering each category will follow the same basic format. The category I'm covering will be at the top. I will highlight the staples and generic good cards that don't have a ton of synergy but still support the deck by being efficient or powerful, then slowly work my way into more and more synergistic elements of each category. So let's get started. And like I said, I could literally talk about each card forever, so be prepared to hear a lot of yap about each card. I'll have timestamps in the description so you can skip around to whatever you like, but let's kick things off with Draw. Honestly, this category has synergy in every element. Cards like the previously mentioned Frantic Search and Faithful Mending are powerful looting effects. Frantic Search is especially amazing because it offers a free Hashiton clone assuming we discard a creature card to put his trigger on the stack. Additionally, Faithful Mending has Flashback, allowing us to dig even deeper after casting it or discard it without feeling like we lost a card. Ledger Shredder, Raffine, and Spy Master's Vault offer ways to connive, which is a powerful form of draw in any deck that cares about discarding. And shout out to Spy Master's Vault, which is basically a staple in all my black decks at this point. Ghostly Pilferer, Likeness Looter, and Ret2 Mystic each offer unique ways to discard, while also gaining us some card advantage. Ghostly Pilferer is a free discard outlet, and if played early, can draw us a ton of cards off of commanders being cast. Likeness Looter not only has an on-demand loot effect, but can clone a card in the yard, which helps if we end up with a Grandeur creature in the yard before Hashiton can copy it. And Ret2 Mystic gives everything cycling, allowing us to stay card neutral when discarding for our clones. One card that you wouldn't expect to have as much synergy as it does is Esper Sentinel. I don't need to talk about the things that normally make this card powerful, but I will highlight its uniqueness in this deck. Being copied by Hashiton turns this card into an incredibly powerful draw engine. Rather than paying 1, our opponents will have to pay 4, as the Hashiton clone has 4 power. Another important fact is that it's an artifact creature. Top decking Tutors late in the game or once we already have all of our pieces can feel really bad, but having an amazing target for an Enlightened Tutor or an Entomb at any point is something that Esper Sentinel provides. Moving on to the removal, we run many more staples here, with cards like Otawara, Path to Exile, Counterspell, Anguish Unmaking, Generous Gift, and Toxic Deluge, all of which are well known for their efficiencies, and their power doesn't need to be restated for the purpose of this video. However, more synergy takes form in the way of cards like Stubborn Denial, Muddle the Mixture, and Big Game Hunter, each of which provide a unique synergy. Because the tokens Hashiton creates are 4/4, we will almost always have Stubborn Denial on, and it can be strong in the early game as well. Muddle the Mixture is a decent counterspell, but it can also act as a tutor, and because Transmute discards it, it feeds into any of our discard payoffs, which I will highlight later. Big Game Hunter offers removal at a cheap cost, and similar to Faithful Mending, doesn't feel bad to discard if we don't have anything better. The previously mentioned Lethal Scheme and Bitter Triumph offer an at or below rate removal spell with additional discard synergies. Lastly, Angel of the Ruins is one of the cards that provides such depth to this deck with its unique synergies. Plane Cycling is a powerful effect on its own. However, being able to clone this with Hashiton while it's being cycled can turn this 7-mana spell into a 5-mana ramp and removal spell. Even if we don't cycle this to its own ability, discarding it to a free discard outlet and cloning it with Hashiton provides splashy, instant speed, artifact, and enchantment removal. This is where the power of Hashiton in the command zone really shines, turning a 7-drop into a 3-mana instant speed removal spell that hits 2 things is incredibly strong and allows us to run these otherwise high-cost cards that help support the deck. Moving on to the protection package in this deck, which feels pretty standard. Sajiri Shelter, Malakir Rebirth, Diamond City, and Accursed Duneyard are all essentially lands with upside. Accursed Duneyard feels like an amazing deep cut, allowing you to not only protect Hashiton, but the clones that he puts on the battlefield as well. Selfless Spirit can be recurred for repeated protection, and Comeuppance is such a slept-on card. It's a powerful fog that often works as a board wipe as well. Flare of Fortitude, Clever Concealment, and Teferi's Protection are very standard protection spells. However, I will highlight the importance of protection that can help protect tokens. Clever Concealment is especially great at this, as opposed to something like an Eerie Interlude, which would exile our tokens forever rather than just protecting them. Lastly, for protection, we have a couple Pillow Fort cards in the form of Propaganda and Ghostly Prison. These cards seem boring at first, but warding off attacks and keeping our life total high is incredibly important. Don't tell anyone this, but your life total becomes the most important resource in this deck. This is due to the cost of Phyrexian Reclamation being 2 life, a powerful effect that can only be looped so many times until we just die. The amount of games I've played where my life is down to 6 or 3 and being locked out of what I want to do feels so bad, so it's important that we pillow fort a little bit. Last of the base categories, and potentially the most boring one, is Ramp, which only has 4 cards dedicated to this task. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and the 2 talismans in our colors that have black, as it is the main color of the decks. The deck's curve effectively stops at 5, and though sometimes the loops can be mana intensive, setting pieces up early for low costs help ensure that we don't have to ramp too much. Now onto the real synergy piles. The deck needs 2 main things to function outside of the grandeur creatures and Hashiton already providing clones in the command zone, and that is a discard outlet and a recursion piece. Our discard outlets come in many forms. We have free ones, some that loot, and even a couple that recur, the last of which are the most notable ones. Tortured Existence is an all-star, allowing for cloning and recursion at the same time, setting up multiple grandeur creatures at once. The Undertaker is also an extremely underrated card in this deck, the most noteworthy reason being that it allows you to discard any card, not just a creature card, to recur your creatures. This makes it easier as the deck isn't too creature heavy, running only about 25 of them. This segues us perfectly into the recursion pieces that this deck runs. Hall of Heliod's Generosity gives us a failsafe against removal for Tortured Existence or Phyrexian Reclamation. Witch's Cottage can be searched up by Corlash when we're looping him to dump swaps onto the battlefield, and can be a nice recursion piece in a pinch. Takenuma is an untapped black source that can help us dig while also grabbing a creature back to hand. Notably, this doesn't have to be one that you milled with its channel effect. And yet another deep cut emerges in the fact that we run each of the channel lands, which will not only offer us an untapped source of mana, not only an additional effect if we're mana flooded, but we're discarding it to achieve its effect, once again being able to trigger our other discard payoffs. Furthermore, each grandeur creature is legendary, and during any given game, we can expect to have at least Hashiton and 1 clone of these creatures on the field, further ensuring the discount provided on these cards. Just more layers and layers of synergy that make me love this deck and the depth that it provides. As far as engines go for recursion, I haven't been able to find a ton that do the job well for this deck, so we are running a couple of single-use recursion spells, like Call to the Netherworld, Crawl from the Cellar, and Rogue's Gallery. Call to the Netherworld can be played for free with a discard outlet, or by discarding it to one of the various looting effects. Call from the Cellar has Flashback, once again another card that we can discard in a pinch and still get value out of. And Rogue's Gallery grabs 1 creature of each color back to our hand, a beautiful piece of text for a deck that focuses on 3 individually colored creatures. The recursion engines of the deck include the already mentioned Phyrexian Reclamation, Undertaker, and Tortured Existence. I know I've probably said this a ton, but the compactness of Tortured Existence, allowing you to discard a card and recur a creature all on 1 card, is massive, and makes this probably the most important card in the deck. However, assuming you have a free discard outlet already set up, Phyrexian Reclamation is the most consistent recursion piece, because it doesn't require you to have other creature cards. However, it still does have a cost, and this cost in particular can often push us into a hard place. The mana is whatever, but weirdly enough, the 2 life makes this more restrictive than you might think. Between paying life for shock land, pain lands, talismans, and various other effects in combination with our opponents focusing our life total down, this will often lead to a grindy mid-game. This makes one-off life gain effects a particularly good upside, as mentioned and seen on Faithful Mending and Faith of the Devoted. Life gain has helped so much that I've considered looking at more ways to gain life, like one-off lifelink creatures that could be cloned with Hashiton, but I digress. Beyond what was just mentioned, we run the partners from the original deck list, Haunted Crossroads, and Overlord of the Baelmerk. Haunted Crossroads is a cheaper cost than Phyrexian Reclamation or Tortured Existence in a vacuum, but ultimately offers no real card advantage because the creature we put on top will simply replace our draws. Overlord of the Baelmerk is such a flexible card for so many reasons. It can be cast early for a one-time recursion effect while slowly unlocking its recursion engine with Impending. It can also dig for cards we need in a pinch, as well as being a great target to clone with Hashiton after discarding it. Additionally, it is an enchantment like Phyrexian Reclamation and Tortured Existence, which we are already looking for with our tutors, and it's a creature, which allows for the previously mentioned cloning by Hashiton. Assembling all of this is a task and a half, but where do we go from here? Well, that's where our discard payoffs come into play. Bone Miser and Archfiend of Ifnir provide tons of value off of our discard engines, and Archfiend of Ifnir has cycling stapled on it, which can synergize in so many ways that I have already mentioned. Faith of the Devoted and Monument to Endurance really help close out games. Pushing the game into a grindy state with Anessa helps ensure life totals are low once we deploy these payoffs, and Korlash ramping us helps ensure we can always pay for each Faith of the Devoted trigger. Still, sometimes this can feel a little slow and clunky, and while the deck is far from perfectly buttery smooth, these offer great ways to close out the game, along with the fact that looping Linessa will leave all of our opponents wide open for attacks. And using Hashiton's ability to build up an army of 4/4s makes for some decent attackers. Along with the unintentional amount of flyers in this list, and ways to buff them through effects like Connive or simply cloning them to close out the game can feel super easy after a grindy mid-game. Now you know how the deck works, some unique synergies within the deck, and how to win. But there's one thing I haven't mentioned, and it's the glue that holds the entire deck together: the tutors. And with these, the synergy simply continues to deepen. On the surface, the most powerful tutors are Enlightened Tutor and Demonic Tutor, which are already regarded as some of the best tutors in the format. Enlightened Tutor is especially flexible, as it can grab almost anything we need. Tortured Existence acts as a discard outlet and a recursion piece, as well as most of our recursion pieces being stapled onto enchantments already. Grabbing Monument to Endurance or Faith of the Devoted as a win con makes for Enlightened Tutor never being a bad top deck in the late game. At the very least, we can cover some of our core categories as well, with it being able to tutor up Esper Sentinel for draw, Angel of the Ruins for removal, and even Soul Ring for ramp if we're that desperate. Continuing with our tutors, Entomb and Buried Alive both set up our grandeur creatures in the graveyard if we already have recursion, and Final Parting is pretty much a one and done setup for our engine. Oftentimes this will grab a recursion piece to hand and toss a grandeur creature in the yard. Similarly, Auric Lore Mage can entomb any card we need, and Diabolic Tutor is a straight-up tutor that costs us nothing more than 4 mana. Muddle the Mixture, Clutch of the Undercity, and Dimir Houseguard are all transmute effects that help us grab whatever we need while also providing small bits of value. Though the synergy here might be clear, the real deep cuts come in the form of Step Through and Vidalcan Aether Mage, which both have wizard cycling. My initial reason to include these in the deck was to ensure that we can always grab Linessa, which is arguably the most powerful grandeur creature. But in the initial deck, I found these to be dead top decks, or dead in hand anytime we already had Linessa. So after much debate on whether to cut them, I settled on a solution. Just throw Spellseeker in the deck. This incredibly deep synergy allowed me to turn any dead wizard cycling card into a tutor for any other card in my deck through a string of toolbox effects. A situation could end up like this. I have all the grandeur creatures I need, but don't have the recursion to set up the engine, and I just top decked my wizard cycler. Well, I can simply wizard cycle for Spellseeker, which I can cast and tutor up a less restrictive tutor, such as Demonic Tutor, which can in turn help me find the recursion piece I was missing. This helped me fix one of the biggest weak points of this deck, dead draws. After getting the grandeur creatures, any creature tutor instantly turned into a dead card, but with Spellseeker, I can slowly turn them into a tutor for any card I need. The theme of tutoring for less restrictive tutors plays out in multiple ways in this deck, such as with Spellseeker or any of the transmute cards. Spellseeker added that extra layer that really ties everything together. I know I said I could talk about each card for hours, and while it wasn't quite an hour for each card, I feel like I took the time to really appreciate the depth that each card provides. Of course, I more than likely missed some things, but I feel satisfied with what I've laid out. Thanks for sticking with me as I rambled on and on about specific cards currently in this deck. Though I think the deck is in a great spot already, there are always ways to improve, and many of you offered great suggestions in addition to what I've already been considering. So very quickly, here are some of the best recommendations that I will be looking to include in the deck list in the future. Solitary Confinement and No Mercy are insanely powerful pillow fort cards that ultimately serve the deck better than the already included ones. I'll probably replace these straight up. Amiria Shepherd dumps every swamp onto the battlefield with Corlash, and even without him, it can be cloned to offer its powerful ability early on in the game. Tamiyo the Moonsage's first two abilities don't have any specific synergy, but the last ability allows us to infinitely loop each grandeur creature once we have a clone in play, so I think it's worth a try. Let me know if I'm thinking about this incorrectly though, but I do believe that this is an insanely powerful effect for this deck. Lastly, upgrading the removal package to have slightly more synergy and including Intuition, which can act as a one-card setup, will be great. That's everything I have for you guys. Shout out to everyone who commented on the last video. I hope you enjoyed this just as much as the first one. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, be on the lookout for memberships coming to the channel if you want to support us and gain some awesome perks as well. Of course, drop a like and subscribe as it always helps the channel grow. Check out some of our other videos here. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.